Thank you all for coming out tonight. I know the weather was a little bit questionable and caused us a little bit of concern as to getting everybody out here, but we do appreciate you coming out. I am Commissioner Seipel, and I am so very happy that you have joined us tonight for this very, very special showing of the documentary Screenagers, and to gain some insight from our panel of experts. Tonight is the second in a series of forums that we will be presenting dealing with the challenges our children and families face in this very challenging world. Our first forum, Raising Positive Children, Helping Your Child Deal with Stress in Today's Challenging World, touched on some critical issues, including teen suicide and bullying, with our fabulous guest speaker, Dr. Scott Poland from Nova Southeastern University, who, as you all know, was an internationally known and respected expert on those issues. For tonight's forum, our second in the series, Raising Positive Children, Growing Up in the Digital Age, we have also included our children, and I will tell you I am so very happy to see that we do have so many families here tonight and that you all have brought your children here. We do have to do this together, and our children need to know what we're facing together. We feel that it is important for them to hear discussions about these areas of concern and this very vital information that will be shared tonight. Tonight, we will delve into the ways that technology is impacting our children's development and their lives, and the challenges that it brings to parents, educators, and society as a whole. After viewing this award-winning documentary, we will begin our panel discussion. West Campus Principal Michael Castellano will be our moderator tonight. Just a quick note on what you will be seeing. Screenagers was created in 2016 by Dr. Delaney Rouston, a physician and a mom. It is truly eye-opening, and its relevance to what is happening today with social media, cell phones, computers, and technology as a whole, involving our children and families, and that very delicate balance that is needed. It begins with her daughter, 11 years old, wanting an iPhone. So now, if you will, please, as they say in the theaters, sit back, relax, as we present for you the video Screenagers.
It's super fun playing on my mom's cell phone.
It's awesome how you can watch videos on
Texting
YouTube.
and sharing photos.
Playing games on iPad.
It all started with one question: what new phone to get my daughter? I knew what Tessa wanted, a smartphone. I learned that you spend on average 6.5 hours a day looking at screens. As a doctor, I decided I needed to understand the impact of all this screen time on kids. And as a mom, I needed to know what to do.
A young adolescent brain can oscillate back and forth very, very quickly, but it comes at a cost.
I'm so distracted by my phone, so it's hard to listen to a teacher and actually understand what they're saying.
What's extraordinary about the studies on multitasking is even though you're doing worse and worse on everything you're doing, you feel as though you're doing better and better.
Who's there to catch you at home? Your mom? You can outsmart her easily. No offense. Yeah, Mom, it's a really hard math thing.
The game industry has designed these games to become universes where these kids enter and they don't want to come out to do math. Who wants to do math?
When I tried to stop him from playing the games, he turns into another person.
I gamed until like 1 in the morning, and then I gamed 3 in the morning, and then I gamed until 5 in the morning.
Most of the time, he'd be on the computer. It felt like he was in a different world.
I didn't realize how much my sister cared about me.
The thing that matters is not whether you're a good person, it's how you look.
I took a picture of myself and my brother, and I sent it to him. When I got to school, I knew that everyone else knew.
This is one of the most difficult parenting issues we've ever faced. Internet consumption, video game use is very complicated to parent around.
The mistake that parents often make is that they assert their authority without explaining it in a way that makes sense to their child.
When parents tell me not to do something, I'm like, what would happen if I did it? When my parents actually have that deep conversation, it works a lot better.
It's evolution, it's the future, it's too late, I'm addicted. No, it's not too late. The research that shows human resiliency gives me hope.
My friends and I go out to eat. We'll all agree to put our phones in the middle of the table. Whoever checks their phone first has to pay for the meal.
When I study, I turn off the data on my phone, and that way I can't go on the internet and I can't get text messages.
We have to think about everywhere that kids are in the real world and how we can help educate them in those spaces. We can't just say it's on the schools, it's on the parents. We have to do this as a community.
My name is Michael Castellano. I am privileged to serve as principal of the City of Pembroke Pines Charter School West Campus. And I'm joined today with my colleagues out in the audience, and I'm sure many of my students who I saw walking in and parents, so welcome once again. And again, as we transition, a quick reminder to everyone, a video of tonight's forum will be posted on the city's YouTube page under Pembroke Pines Media. Please subscribe to the city's YouTube page so you don't miss any of the events taking place. Also, like us on the city's Facebook account, facebook.com, City of Pembroke Pines. And follow the city on Instagram under City of P Pines and Twitter at City of P Pines. You can also watch Pines Media TV on Comcast Channel 78 and on AT&T UVerse Channel 99 by clicking on Pembroke Pines Media. The city has just redesigned their website. Please visit at ppines.com. Again, my name is Michael Castellano, and as we set up this evening, I am excited to be your host and moderator for the night. And we have some engaging questions for our panelists who will be up shortly. So, I did see students in the audience. Students, would you clap your hands for me? Ah, quite a few. I can't see you, but I can tell there's quite a few out there. So students, parents, you were given a pamphlet when you walked in. On the back, it says notes. All right, students, this is for you. Take out a pen and pencil because this is the part of the show that we want you to take some notes. Here's a few things we want you to do. Write some things that you agree with, some things that you may not agree with, and maybe some questions that you have for your parents. And as part of this series, parents, we want you to also engage with your students. So these are the questions that you can take back, and at the dinner table, at some point this weekend, sit with your parents and talk about some of the things that you learned here today. Okay, so I'd like to have our panelists join us on stage, please, and we'll introduce you to our audience. Come on up. Okay, we have student experts. Yes. We have an administrator, school expert. We have our law enforcement experts, and we have our medical expert. We'll start to your right, Dr. David Ruby. Let's see. To his left is Officer Robert Scopa. To his left is Officer Stacy Jurgens, Sergeant Stacy Jurgens. Okay, I am going to go mobile, so I can't see. And then Michelle Kefford. Thank you. Our principal of Flanagan High School. Teacher, my former student, please give it up for Christine Simon. Next to her is one of our student guests, Isaac Andrade. And last but not least, E.B. Long John. Thank you, guys. E.B. and Isaac are students at Pembroke Pines High School, and they are seniors. We'll be hearing from them shortly. Okay, so our first question is for Dr. David Ruby. Dr. Ruby is the medical director of child and adolescent psychiatry at Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital and an associate professor of psychiatry at the University of Miami, FIU, Nova Southeastern University, and FAU. He treats young people with depression, anxiety, and eating disorders. Dr. Ruby, there were several studies mentioned. Can you speak to one that you believe is most relevant to the topic?
Good evening, everybody. I just want to let you know that you will not find me on Instagram. I'm not on Snapchat, and I do happen to have Facebook, but no photo. So, and that's only because my patients have talked me into it. Thank you very much, first of all, Mr. Castellanos, as well as other distinguished members of this panel for having me, and really appreciate the chance to share a few thoughts with everyone here tonight. The study in terms of brain and its pleasure centers, as well as issues regarding social skills, are all incredibly important. We human beings tend to repeat behaviors that feel good and feel right. The issues that come up, especially a little bit later in the film about addictions, we could see that the gaming that the young man engaged with gave him so much pleasure that he shut out the rest of his entire world, which sounds like gambling, alcohol, drugs, and those people who are addicted can sound very familiar, just like any other addiction. These are the studies that are very important in understanding the process that a lot of our children, as well as adults, go through. Who appreciated the young man who called his family out? I thought that that was one of the greatest case studies, because I think the film pointed out quite well, you know, don't do as I do, but do as I say, which is a major parental no-no. That you cannot do that, and I'm sure that a lot of the young people here in the audience may have caught their parents in a place where, don't speed, son, Dad. What about that red light that we just saw back there? So I thought that that was a very important part. I was asked earlier about what potential outcomes there can be if we're going to talk about research. And I think the best outcome are the people sitting here in the audience, and the unfortunate outcomes are the people who are not sitting here. The people sitting here have decided that we're going to try and have a conversation with our children, with our families, and with ourselves. And I think that that is a great outcome of any type of research. If we're going to open ourselves to a discussion, then let's have it honestly, and I think that that's what this film has tried to teach us.
Thank you, Dr. Ruby. I'd like to transfer over to our students, E.B. and Isaac. Any chance I get to speak to students, young people, it's what I do for a living. I'm amazed. You are our future, and the film certainly spoke to you as it did to the families in the audience. You heard about some of the peer pressures, some of the social pressures that surround the use of social media. So my question to you, let's speak, if you would, about those social media pressures, those peer pressures. Can you identify what they are and the impact that they have on young kids, young adults such as you?
Peer pressures. There are a lot, especially when in middle school, when your parents probably first decide to hand you a phone. I actually did not get a cell phone that did not, like a actual smartphone, until I was in the 6th grade, and my life changed after I got the phone. With the peer pressures, your friends pressure you to, let's first say, add something on a version, like any version of social media, or to take a picture of a teacher doing something very silly, or take a picture of your mom or somebody in class doing something very silly. The peer pressure gets to you to the point where when you get into high school, they up the level of how bad it can get. So it ends up from taking a picture of your mom dancing in the kitchen while making chicken to taking a picture of someone doing something either inappropriate or illegal or just bad in general. So the peer pressure gets bad as the phone, like as your phone comes along with you.
Thank you, Evie. And I'm going to take it back to you, Dr. Ruby, because the film alluded to the differences in gender between females and males, especially when it comes to social media and being online. They spoke very directly to when we engage online as a female, it's more about the attraction, it's more about the physical looks, and it's different for males. Can you speak to that?
In general, boys are playing a lot more games, and one of the major struggles is online gaming, where kids are, I'd say boys definitely more than girls, where they're playing Xbox Live with friends who could be anywhere in the country on a headset. And parents will say, I hear them talking to their friends, but there's nobody with them. And they're engaging in mutual activity, but they are a million miles apart. I think the young lady, when describing her brother, I'm in the same room with him, but a million miles apart, that definitely happens in terms of friends. And kids can spend hours in there in lieu of doing their homework or family dinners. I have a patient who then, from his room and from his game, calls Uber Eats and has food delivered directly to his bedroom for dinner. Girls in social media. The posing, the seductive looks, everybody trying to be prettier than the next, and if we could just, flash that photography. Speaking of peer pressure, I would be remiss without mentioning it, and that is the sexual peer pressure. It is very, the young lady mentioned in the film about, the boy and nude pictures and stuff like that. Cannot say enough to be very, very careful. And I'm not even talking about the risks of, and the officers here could speak to the risks of child molesters and abuse and all that. I'm just talking about the kids themselves. So kids, keep your clothes on. Don't take any pictures. Protect your body, protect your own modesty. It isn't cool to show yourself in any way. And that peer pressure, male to female and vice versa, can be very destructive. And please, guys, don't give away anything for free. So there is no free lunch and there are no free shows.
Thank you, Dr. Ruby. And that's a good segue to our law enforcement. And with us today is Sergeant Stacy Juergens and Officer Robert Scopa. Sergeant Stacy has been with the force at Pembroke Pines Police Department for 13 years, and she currently serves as the administrative sergeant for our school resource officers. Thank you for the work that you do, and Bob Scopa, we go back a long way. I've always seen you in a school, and I appreciate you for that. Thank you for keeping our kids safe. So the question, yes.
Thank you.
As Dr. Ruby stated, yeah, there are some pitfalls of taking these pictures and images and putting it online. Just recently, a friend who works at Broward County told me that there was a young child who was in a stall with his friend, and he took a picture, a compromising picture, and put it on his social media account. So, Stacy or Bob, can you speak to the dangers and pitfalls of that kind of behavior?
Right. In this particular case in Broward County, they walked into the bathroom, they took the shot, and then they texted. And again, when you have someone who takes a picture, you're producing either child pornography or sexting. And so what happens is once you send it, if some of you in here would have received it, and then resent it or reposted it to a friend who said, hey, did you see this particular case? You said, yeah, I saw it, I got the picture, here's the picture. And as you do that, you continue to produce, or in these terms today, sexting or texting, which for the first offense, if you receive it and you don't do anything with it, and you tell somebody, hey, I have it, I didn't want it, I didn't solicit it, but I received it, it's a non-criminal infraction. But if you then take that picture and decide that I'll send it out or I'll send it to my friends, I think it's funny, put a hashtag on it, and do something with it, then it becomes a problem. And for these particular cases where these kids, last week we had where the girls had posted some pictures several years ago, sent it to a friend, much like in the movie, where he said, hey, just take a picture if you can and send it to me. She trusted him, she sent the picture. The picture then, 2 years later, resurfaces. And what the parents have to understand is it's not just the mobile device. The mobile device is the instrument that they're using, but it's the accounts that they're saving the information in. You could take the phone from your son or daughter and destroy it, and when they get the new one, they'll re-download, much like your Google account, where you save all your contacts and your pictures and everything else, and when you give them the new phone, they'll re-download it. And so in these particular cases, that's what's happening. So as parents, you need to go back into their accounts and make sure that you're checking what type of accounts they have, what their username and passwords are. And much like the movie, they're saying, well, I gave my friend my Facebook name and account so she could lock me out. Well, unfortunately, when you do that, you allow someone to start posting things under your name and your account. And so oftentimes that will happen. Kids know each other's accounts. They'll take the information, they'll snap a picture, they'll send it out, and it's really not even the person whose account it is. It's someone else using their account to produce these pictures and these messages to the kids.
Thank you, Officer Scopa. Would you like to add, Mr.? Okay. I am going to go back to the kids. Isaac, you and I met this week for the first time. E.B., we go back a long way, right? I'd like to get your feedback on what we just said. As seniors, I know that you're looking at scholarships in schools. How important is it to protect yourself?
Well, on social media itself, you get all these scouts that come to you and they want to see, how good you are and how really big of a person you are, but they're not really looking so much on how you look, but the type of person that you portray, if you uphold your family last name to the respect that you should do. They're going to go through all your pictures, they're going to go through who you're following, because who you're following shows who you're influenced by. So it may not be the person you are now, but it could be the person you are then. Now if I'm a straight A student now, it's fine. But they're looking for the future. The scholarship is the future. So if they're looking at me now and they're seeing that I'm following something inappropriate now, it's okay. How can this evolve? It's like when you first get the phone. The phone starts new. It says hello. It starts. And from there, it evolves. It becomes more apps, more downloads, more pictures, and possibly more, more negative influence. Not all the times. That's why in the video, I really do like how it talked about not only how the parents not to tell your kid, but to discuss. The first contract they made with the little girl, they made it. Didn't work. The second contract, they made it as a family together. Just to bring it up, the thing that I like to do is I'm actually involved in an ASL group in my school. And the sign for family, you guys are going to learn it today, is you take two hands like this. So if everyone could go like this with their hands. And the hand starts together like this. And it comes around. And that's family. And what I really like about that is in the sign family, you start together and you end together. So with the contract itself, you guys are going to start the contract together, you're going to work on it, and you're going to end together. So with that, I think everything that you guys do with your kids and your phones, you should be on the same page the whole time.
That's great. Thank you. I'd like to, Michelle Kefford, I am itching to ask you a question, and I think I'm going to stay on this theme. Michelle Kefford is with us today. She's principal of Flanagan High School. Principal Kefford has served the Broward County school system for 19 years. She has a master's in education from FIU and a master's of education in ed leadership at FAU, and the only school that matters, she got her undergrad at FSU. What is your comments regarding the topic?
So working at a high school, as I've done for 19 years, we certainly see our share of social media, probably a little bit more than we'd like to. And all of the issues and all of the concerns that were brought up, I've seen and then some. We've seen students, unfortunately, make poor decisions, take photos, take videos that were compromising, that ended up in a lot of different hands. I've had students who have had to withdraw from school as a result of embarrassment from a photo that was sent to a boyfriend who later broke up with a young lady. And it's devastating not only to the child, but it's devastating to the family. So we really, really stress to our kids to monitor what you're doing on social media, to monitor what you're doing on your phone at all times, because one split bad decision stays with you forever. In the age of the internet and technology that we live in, nothing goes away. Everything is permanent. And I want to commend him for the very eloquent job he did in explaining how very extensive these universities and these scholarship agencies, how very intense they are with their searches and their research they do on students they are going to either admit into universities or provide scholarship funds to. We have had students who have had things reversed as a result of things found on social media. These institutions do search, they do look, so it's very, very important, kids, I can't stress enough, that you make sure you're very cautious with what you put out there. I don't have a Facebook page, I never have, and I never will. And you just really have to monitor what you're putting out there because it's there forever.
Thank you. So I get asked often, what apps are out there for parents to use? How do I monitor my child's activity online? And what measures could I put in place? And this is for law enforcement.
So much like the movie, they talk about going into the internet store and what phone to buy and what service to provide. To me, that's the key time for parents to meet with their provider, get the types of software and things to set up the phone at that particular time. The conversation prior to going in the store needs to be that you're going to get this device. It has access to the World Wide Web, which is not just local, it's everywhere. So there has to be some kind of parameters for these kids to understand that I'm entrusting you with this device, but there is going to be a restriction. So when you go into the store, when you tell the guy that, hey, I'm giving this to my 10, 12, 13-year-old son or daughter, that they can help you set up the phone then. There are a lot of apps out there. We don't endorse these apps, but recently we did a presentation for some of the charter parents at the high school, and we provided them with some list of things that are out there. I'll just talk briefly on some of the apps. In general, they allow individuals to be anonymous through the use of fake names, usernames, and profiles. It's not specifically an app that is designed for you to disguise yourself. A majority of the cases that we see are not kids downloading an app that hides them. It's they're using names that their parents don't know they're using, or they have a separate account. So the one that they're showing you under their real name and their real identity is not the one they're out there posting on. Some of them are like, the most popular are Snapchat, and it's not anonymous, but the messages are instantaneous, so they disappear. But what the kids don't understand is that they screenshot it. So when the kids are posting something on Snapchat, somebody is screenshotting their Snapchat and then reposting it. And it's the same thing with FaceTime. You give these kids a phone, and while they may not be posting a video of themselves doing something, If they're doing something in their bedroom and they're getting dressed and someone's watching them on FaceTime, they screenshot it. It's very simple to do. And then that picture is being posted and reposted. Some of them, the tracking is, Kid Chrono is an application that's for iPads and iPods. It basically will allow you to monitor any Apple device and control the time that your child is on the actual device. There's some screen limits which allows you to set up how much time they can have access and what time it will shut off. There's the Norton Family Control, which allows you to set up parental controls and timelines, and Unglue, which allows you to be notified when your children are using the devices, and it allows you to control or prevent them from going above and beyond the time limits that you set. So if they need an extra half an hour for them to finish something, you can grant them the extra half hour and then it'll shut off.
Good, thank you. Back to our students, I'm going to put you on the spot now as families have their pens in hand. What are some of these sites or apps that we should absolutely be aware of and stay away from?
So, one thing that's a big thing that I personally know of that, but I personally know of, is on Instagram, you can click on your profile and you can click your username and there'll be a drop down of multiple usernames. So a lot of people will have, I'll have an account for my family and I'll have an account for my friends. One is Insta, which is what parents know, Instagram, and then one you call is for your friends, it'll be called Finsta. Now, it's not a code name, it's not a secret name, but it can show you, sometimes what you want to show other people, but not certain people. And that's a big thing that I personally have a problem with, because if I'm going to put something out there, I need to make sure that it's something that I don't care if anybody sees. I want them to see, for each picture that I post, the person who I am, the person who I portray, and the family that I come from. So I feel like if you feel the need to have multiple accounts to hide yourself from certain people but show yourself to others, that's the first problem there is. You need to have one account for you. There is one you, and there will only be one you. So why put out multiple names?
Thank you. Yes, Sergeant Jurgens.
Hello.
There is something that I just wanted to kind of comment tonight on. I also run a threat assessment team through the Pembroke Pines Police Department, and what the purpose of that is if there is a child that makes a threat on social media or to another friend says, hey, wait till you see what I'm going to do tomorrow, I'm going to bring a gun to school, I'm here to tell you right now that's a problem. And there's difficult conversations that need to be had with your kids because this is a reality. And I can't tell you how many parents will say to me, I know my kid and my kid didn't mean it, it was just a joke. I'm here to tell you it's not going to be taken as a joke. So my suggestion to you would be to sit down with your child, monitor what they're posting, because if they post something that poses a threat, I'm telling you now, it's going to be a problem. Also, your kids are going to say, I have a lot of parents, and I'm telling you what parents are telling me. I know my kid, you may, and I'm not doubting that you do, but there is a technological personality on your kids that I'm here to tell you you don't know. And you have to understand and accept the fact that you don't know that. There are apps on their phones that, everybody knows the calculator on the phone, and I'm not very tech savvy. I'm here to tell you right now, I'm not. And these kids, I'm learning so much from, and it's honestly, it freaks me out. There's your calculator that you use. Well, these kids can type in a password, and there's an entire dark web behind that you can't get access to unless you know that code. I can tell you that right now. And parents tell me, parents are so shocked when we go over this with them on these threat assessments that some of them break down and cry, and you think it's your fault. It's not your fault. You're not doing anything wrong. The problem is the world of technology that these kids are exposed to today. And then parents say, listen, I'm trying, I'm doing the best I can, I want to have a good relationship with my kid. They say they need privacy. Let me tell you something. Your kid doesn't need privacy. If they're telling you they need privacy, they're telling you they're hiding something from you and they don't want you to see it. As long as they're in your house and they're under 18, they can have all the privacy they want when they're 18 years old and you're not paying for them anymore. That's when they get privacy. So take that control back. And if they say, well, I'm going to call the police, let them. I would love to come out and handle that. Please call me. I will take control of that for you quickly.
She means it. She means it. Christine Simon is one of our teachers at our high school. I know that you wanted to make some comments, Christine?
Yes, I find that since I am a young teacher that my students do like to overshare some information with me. And yes, there are apps out there that they can hide other apps in. For Snapchat, for example, if you slide all the way to the right, there is a tab specifically that states My Eyes Only. They can also post pictures from there, so please be on the lookout for that as well. Just as Isaac stated, they have Finstas, which are also known as fake Instagram accounts. There's also ways that there are pictures that they are tagged in that you may not see it in their actual profile, but if you click on that tab that shows tagged photos, you may find pictures of your child there as well. So just make sure that you're clicking on all the apps, going through all the buttons to make sure that you're finding everything that you need to know about your child.
Thank you, Christine. Dr. Ruby, you spoke earlier about the gaming and the issues around gaming. One of the gentlemen in the film said that gaming desensitizes students' feelings towards humanity and things like that. Is there any research that you can share with us that speaks to that?
Repetitive behaviors. Repetitive behaviors desensitize your brain, and all of a sudden what seemingly might have a taboo or might have a negative connotation can seem as if it were allowed, and that's okay. And then all of a sudden what begins to kick in, if we want to go to more classical terms, it kicks in the defense mechanisms, rationalizations. It's just my computer, it's really no big deal. Or displacement. Maybe, the concept of blowing off steam by spending 3 hours online. I think if you're blowing off steam for 3 hours doing anything, there's a lot of steam there, and I think parents should need to know exactly what's going on during the day that you need to blow off that much steam. So you become desensitized in an effort to validate perhaps negative behavior. The concept also, coming back to the idea of peer pressure, well, everybody's doing it and everybody's on it, and you see the marketing that goes on. Sign up now because the game is coming out in a month. It's coming out in 2 weeks. It's coming out in 1 week. Sign up now. Get it early. Get in line. You don't have to sleep over anymore to be able to get tickets to the latest and greatest show. So that desensitization, which allows something that was heretofore not allowed, becomes something that is allowed.
Thank you. Principal Kefford, there's been a struggle, over the years about the policies around cell phone usage, right? There's the zero tolerance policy, as we saw in New York City, which failed miserably. There's the open policy where it's free for all. You can use it anytime, anywhere. How can we teach students to use their devices responsibly? There's two things here. We want to develop self-control, and we want to develop their focus. How can we incorporate them as tools in a healthy manner?
So with the use of technology, there's really a shared partnership between the home and the school. We don't have control over students during passing time. At my school, I have just under 2,600 students. So it's physically impossible to be able to monitor what every single student is doing at every moment during the day. Some of our teachers do have autonomy in the classroom with regard to the utilization of cell phones and different technological devices. There are amazing benefits to using technology, especially in an educational setting, but there are also unintended consequences, as we've heard a lot today and seen in the film. Some of my teachers utilize the pockets that you saw in the video with the truck that they had in the New York schools where they had the kids turning in the cell phones. My teachers, when they're not using, the kids aren't needing their cell phones for the lesson for the day, they will pocket their cell phone in one of those pockets and they'll be locked up for the class period. We have other teachers who utilize different apps on the phone. For example, Kahoot. I'm sure a lot of the kids in here, raise your hand, kids, if you've used Kahoot. Okay, so I see the majority of kids putting their hands up. I know my own kids use it as well. It's a great tool that can be linked to your cell phone to do immediate responses with kids to see if they're understanding the concept being taught and to get that immediate feedback for the teacher. So there are a lot of positive benefits, but again, we need to make sure the kids are using it for those positive reasons. We don't want kids sitting in the back texting their friends when they should be listening to the content in the classroom. So it is a shared responsibility between parents to really stress to your kids what the appropriate uses of those technological devices are, and also with the school to make sure that we are using them effectively and that kids are getting the benefit of all of the applications and all of the uses that are out there.
Thank you. And
Can I make a comment
Sure.
about that? We are not the first generation where parents and children have struggled on the battle lines of technology. It could be Elvis not being shown his bottom half on the Ed Sullivan Show. Could be the record player. It could be a cassette tape or a Walkman. It could be having your own phone in your bedroom, which I'm sure there may be people in the audience who may have fought with their parents to get their own phone in the bedroom, and I think you saw the pink phone in the film. So parents and children throughout the ages have fought have battled on the battle lines of technology. However, though, and as the principal said, there are excellent tools that we use on a regular basis to help children in a variety of ways. There are apps in terms of mindfulness apps and soothing apps that help folks deal with anxiety. There's great research on looking at virtual reality in the treatment of panic attacks or post-traumatic stress disorder. So there are really great things and really great opportunities. What poses something unique, at least for now, is the fact that we are, as the officers mentioned, we are inviting the world into our living room, which never has been done before. So in the age of the Walkman, you slip a cassette tape into that, and you put it on your belt, you put it on your headphones. Just make sure you watch out where you're going when you're walking on the crosswalk, and make sure that you're paying attention to the lights. But we've never invited the world into our homes or into our children's lives or into our lives. I'm sure there are adults here in the audience who say, oh, I wasted a lot of time this evening. I could have done other things instead. So that is a pitfall that we're going to have to manage that didn't exist before.
Thank you.
I want to add one thing, I'm sorry, that I think is really critical and important. When we were growing up, and I say we to the parents out there, I'm a parent, I have a teenage son, and I have another son that is 9 years old. You know, if there was a problem with another student at school, for example, that problem stayed sort of on the schoolyard. Nowadays, it never goes away because we have the social media and we have the posts that happen, and we see a lot of that. And that's why, parents, it's really critical that you're monitoring what's going on your students' or your children's social media accounts, because if there's a disagreement or there's an argument between kids, it's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week event because they have that constant link of communication to one another. And that's one thing that we have to be aware of. We hear all this talk about bullying, and that's a really hot topic now. And we've had a lot of conversations, I know, at my school with my colleagues with regard to why is it so pervasive now, as opposed to in the past. And the one common denominator we come up with is there is just no turning off that communication and that interaction, and that's extremely problematic.
So, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cuthbert. I want to take it back to the students because you're dead center here. I mean, this affects you most, and it is a great tool. Where is the happy place at school using your devices, and how do you see that as a productive tool moving forward to college?
I I would say the happy place when it comes down to when I use my phone or when I'm in public with my friends and whatnot. I would think it would be when we're trying to, like me and my friends in particular, we actually don't touch our phones as often when we're with each other. We actually put our phones away. So when we're with each other, we try our hardest to talk to each other, but when we pick up our phones, most of the time it's to talk about what happened at school today or what or like one time it was all about homework, or another time it could be about, say, we do things such as like go on Instagram and check Instagram, what's Kylie Jenner posting, what's going on in basketball, what's going on in football. So I think my happy place when it comes down to my phone is knowing that we can put it down when we want to and pick it up when we want to, and then when we do pick it up and like when we do pick up our phones and whatnot, we choose to do as we please with it.
So is this understood, is this an understood rule, or is this something you guys talk about as friends and say, hey, we're putting our phones away? Can you answer that?
Yeah, but first to kind of backtrack on, sorry, what you guys were saying before, I just want to say to all the parents that you see your kids having problems, and I know you guys, I'm not trying to bag on it, but you guys are parents, you've experienced it, you know it all, and you go, you give the whole, back in my day. Well, when you guys say that, my brain itself, it turns off. So when you guys want to come and you want to go to our problems, I think you guys should investigate before you should interrogate. And what I mean by that is not go to them and be like, well, I was in this situation. Well, listen, we love you as parents, but we don't care what you went through. We care what we're going through right now, because that's our problem and our life. You guys had your life to help us with ours. So when you guys see that your child has a problem or they're stressed, don't go straight to what you know, but maybe ask what they know and use that as a compromise. Maybe the first question should be not why'd you do this, but how can I help? What's wrong? What's on your mind? Just when you start with the basic thoughts and you let the argument, or the conversation I should say, evolve from there, I promise you'll get way further than coming in and saying, hey, I know you did this, why'd you do this? Because as soon as you do that, I want to put my guard up. I want to be like, why is this person coming to me like that? But if you come to me and you're like, hey, listen, I just want to talk to you one-on-one, I see you're stressed, how can I help? That makes me feel better. That makes me feel like, because they call it new technology for a reason. Whether I'm 14 and you're 32, the iPhone came out this year. So we both have the same amount of experience as everybody else. We may be different ages, we may come from different times, but we have the same phone in the same year. So I don't care what type of experience level or knowledge level you're on, we both have the same device. Therefore, on an education or an experience level with the phone, we are the same. So you may be trying to understand it, and I'm trying to understand it. And we don't need to fight about it, but we need to understand that, hey, we're in this situation, let's figure it out together. Because you guys are going to start together, you're going to come together. Family, like I said, it's all the same.
Thank you, Isaac. That's great. Well said. And maybe I'll segue back to Dr. Ruby on that, because he's speaking to relationships and building those deeper relationships, not just rules, but relationships.
I think part of the movie that spoke out to me, and that is a mom and dad's struggle in order to communicate with their child. And one of the things that I appreciated, if you notice that over the course of the movie, and I'm sure over the course of the filming, the young lady in question with the cell phone, you could see that she grew and matured over the course of the film. I don't know what the length of time was, but nevertheless, though, you could see that she grew up while this was filming. And I think that the relationship between a child and a parent begins on delivery day, or even before that, probably at conception. And that those relationships matter, and how a mother takes care of her body and her child, as well as the joy that comes with childbirth, etc., and the relationship starts on day one. Obviously, as children mature and parents mature, and I agree with one of the student who just commented about the shared experiences between children and families, and I thought that was extremely well said. That a goal of every family is to try to have shared experiences and make them as positive, and the title of tonight's talk is Raising Positive Children. I would like to hyphenate that through positive relationships.
Yeah.
So if you've never spoken to your child, it's going to be hard to have a discussion about a cell phone or about anything else. So the key is to keep the conversation going, nurture your relationship, do things together. So therefore, when it inevitably happens that there will be a crisis of some sort, regardless of its size, and I think the officer also mentioned before, it's sort of like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. And sure, all parents across the ages didn't know what was going on with their kids at one point or another. But keep the conversation going, keep the relationship nurtured, view it as something to delve into and work on a regular basis, setting time aside for the nerdy father who wants to take his kids to the mall and of course try to embarrass their children on a regular basis. So please, yes, it's you, Dad. Yeah, that's part of that's part of the deal. So therefore, when a crisis does hit, whether it's a crisis about technology or academics, it's not the first time you're having a discussion about a challenge that happens in a child's life.
Thank you, Dr. Ruby. And I'm going to ask the next question of Michelle Kefford. How important in the development of a child is are extracurricular activities?
Extracurricular activities are critical to a child's success, and there's so much research out there. Actually, there's a research stat that we utilize at our school that I know off the top of my head because we say it so much. A student who's involved in one extracurricular activity in high school has a 96% success rate as far as graduation, or 96% chance of graduating from high school. A child involved in more than one extracurricular activity, 100% of those kids go on to graduate. I was just reading a research study recently about a collegiate institution that put in a bunch of initiatives and initiatives in place to bolster student engagement and involvement in the university, and their graduation rate went up 30% as a result. So it works at all levels. Kids, I don't care what it is you're interested in, find a way to get involved. I can tell you at Flanagan High School, we have close to 100 clubs and activities. We have bowling, we have ping pong, we have academic clubs. There is something for everyone. I tell my kids, if you like it, find a couple other kids who share your interest, get a sponsor, and we make a club out of it. There is literally something for everyone, and the benefits of getting involved are absolutely incredible. Colleges today want more than just a student with A's and B's. They want a student who's well-rounded. They want a child who's giving back to the community. They want a child who's involved, who shows leadership, who shows initiative, and you get all of that from student activities. With the technological age we live in, the majority of communication that we do is through email and text, sitting behind a screen. I can tell you, as a principal who works with kids and as an employer, because I have to hire teachers and different staff members, I see so many kids who come in for interviews, or young adults that come in for interviews, who lack those social skills, making eye contact with somebody else, coming in and shaking a hand. Being involved in activities teaches all of those cooperative skills. It teaches the ability to work as a member of a team. And I don't care what profession you go into, you're not going to work in isolation. You're going to work as a member of a team, and those extracurricular activities help to build those life skills.
Thank you, Ms. Kefford. So I'm curious, real short list or long list, what clubs are you guys involved in? Isaac, go ahead. Yep.
So the clubs that I'm a part of, I'm mainly part of ASL club, and then I'm on the lacrosse team. So I try to keep a balance between education and sports, because I do believe that in order to succeed at the best level, like she was saying, colleges want well-rounded students. They don't want just the brain, and they don't want just the muscle. The brain is a muscle, so I feel like you need to be able to exercise both simultaneously.
Great. Evie?
I am actually leaving the dance team, but I was part of the dance team. I've been dancing with you guys since I've been with Charter when I joined the 3rd grade.
That's right.
So I've been with the dance team. I've also done coding work. I wanted to do a computer science major, so I also did that. I also did chess club because I'm also good with my logics in chess. And to be honest with you, doing dance when I was in the 3rd grade built a lot of confidence. I came from a school where a lot of kids were mean and bullying me and whatnot. So when I did come to charter and I got that opportunity to take whatever I learned at home or from a different school, I took it and changed it into something. The moment that I started the dance team in middle school, I ended up bringing up my grades higher because I had the help, I had the support, I had everything that I could possibly need to do it. So kids, truly go for it. It's not penalizing you to try. Trying is what pushes you to be someone like us, somebody that can get out there and do what most people can't, and that's be unique.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to make one more comment on that. One thing I like about the clubs at Charter that I know about is it's not so much, sign up once you're in, no one else can join. It's after every club meeting I've been to, it's, hey, invite somebody new next time. Try to bring a new person every time. Because it's not so much, it's not a cult, it's not a group, it's a club. We're welcoming, we're opening. So you don't have to be a part of the group officially, but you can come see, you can just come sit. There's a boy, he's a freshman this year, his name is Augustus. He's not very social, he doesn't really like to talk to people, but he joined the ASL club. What ASL allows you to do is it allows you to speak with your hands and not so much with your mouth. It allows you to let yourself express yourself without having to break out of that shell. And yes, we do want him to break out of that shell, but he's told me himself, looking into he said, listen, I like ASL because I can talk to people without using my voice. So it helps him talk to anybody he wants to, but without having the little social pressure there is. Maybe he's subconscious about the way his voice sounds. I've never heard his voice, but I truly know that inside and outside, he's a beautiful person. He's one of the greatest friends I've ever made. There's a saying from the deaf community, it's called silence is the loudest sound. Because if everybody's talking, everybody's going crazy, you're not gonna understand anything. But with sign, this whole entire room could be having all different conversations. But if I'm here and Augustus is up there, we're right here, we're intact the whole time. So that's what I like about clubs is it's not a one-time thing, it's not a two-time thing, it's whenever you want it to be. So if you're not part of a club, don't think it's ever too late to join. Join at any time, get a taste of every little thing, and figure out where you want to be. Because I promise you are not the only person with the same interests that you have, and I promise that someone's going to want to know what you have to say, and they're going to want to listen.
Thank you, Isaac. Yes.
I also think that definitely as the data shows about extracurricular activities, but I'd also just would like to throw in there shared activities with family members. In other words, it's not just enough to go watch your kids in the stands. So before the arthritis kicked in, definitely used to throw the Frisbee and the balls around and play catch and ball with the kids, and then the arthritis kicks in. So maybe we might go out and watch a movie together and stuff like that. Or we might go and do other things regardless of whether or not you're faith-based or music's your thing or following. It's really important to share in those extracurricular activities, but also to have family activities that could be related to your extracurriculars, and showing that interest in your children's activities beyond just as a passive observer is also critical, because again, keeping the doors open allows us to talk about stuff that maybe over the dinner table you may not be able to talk about, but while you're shooting hoops, getting tickets at Dave & Buster's, maybe you can find something to talk about while you're there as well.
Thank you, Dr. Ruby. And Dr. Barnes couldn't be here with us this evening. Many of you know him in our community. Dr. Barnes is the CEO of Sheridan House Family Ministries. He presents seminars throughout the country. He's written many books, and he has a podcast called Parenting on Purpose, and he wanted to share a few words with us this evening as we close out.
The key here is family. Family is the playground. Family is the place that children grow up and become adults. We're in a culture right now where a lot of children don't grow up and become adults because they're not taught what they're supposed to do. This whole issue with this screen right here, this whole issue with this tool right here, it's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful tool, but it's also a distraction. We've heard all that. So now we know the why we need to take this back. But what do we do? And what do we do here? Well, we start with, oh, excuse me, I have to take this text. What do we do here? We set the example. I've got to set an example by the way I handle this, by the way I put this down. Unless I'm an emergency room surgeon, I don't need to be on call all the time. I have to set the example. But then I do need to expose my children to this because they're going to have to deal with this in college and forever. This can't control them. They need to control it. They need to control their desire. So example that I set, then expose them to this. But as I expose them to this, can I say, this isn't their phone. Somebody asked me, what do I do with my child's phone? It's not my child's phone. It's my phone that I'm letting my child use. So I expose them to it. But then after that, slowly they need to experience making decisions for themselves. So here's the limit on this. Son, you handle the limit on this. If you don't, we'd lower the limit. The little boy who got his 2-hour game taken away down to 1 hour, kicked the wall, mom should have said, do that again and it's a half hour. Do that again and it's 15 minutes. You're choosing. See, there's a consistency here that's so important. And then after I watch them do it and they're getting it and they're setting it down, bingo. I encourage them. There's 4 E's here. Example, exposure, experience, encourage. You're doing great with this. This isn't taking you over. This is your tool. We have to do this. Otherwise, they're going to be in deep trouble. Otherwise, there's little girls that are going to be dealing with shaming, and there's little boys that are going to be doing things we can't even imagine. In the post-Columbine era, after that shooting and 9 others and the research that was done, #1 commonality in all the shooters, violent video games. So there's good here, but we have to decide this is the limit. My phone, park it. I will park mine also. So if I'm sitting here tonight and I'm a parent and I'm saying, wow, is it ever too late to begin this? I saw the film, I know I need to begin, and my child's had total freedom from whatever on, 11 or 12 on, with this device. And all of a sudden I come down and I sit and we're changing the rules because I love you. We're changing the rules because I love you. This child's gonna be furious, and that's okay. All of a sudden I realized there was a food we shouldn't be eating that my child loves. But for the health of my child, we're not eating that food anymore. So don't expect the child, again, don't expect the child to be happy. But the child will come back to you later on in life when they're 40 years old and say, thank you. I can't expect today's child to want boundaries. I need to know today's child needs boundaries, because as they bump up against the boundaries or go over the boundaries, and there's a consequence for that, the phone is put away for a period. There's a consequence for that. Then they slowly learn that, okay, I can. I don't want the consequence. I can. And then slowly they have impulse control. They're employable. They can stay faithful in their marriage. We want to send them out ready. So now we know why. We saw the film. The question for each of us as parents is what? What are we going to do for the future of our child? There's something as parents we really don't understand. When I, as a child, understand the boundaries, I'm more confident. And I'm learning to do the boundaries. And I can do it. This isn't about screens. This is about everything out there in life that tempts me. I want to do that. I'm drawn to do that, but I have the ability not to do that. I have the ability to go to college and keep my clothes on. I have the ability to get my first credit card. I want to buy that. This gives a child, as they're becoming who they're supposed to be, so much more confidence. But let me say this is really important. If you go to your child after you've set up your plan and say, we're putting limits on this, if your child says, oh, thank you, I've really wanted limits, you need to bring them to us for therapy. That doesn't make any sense at all. Your child's not going to like this any more than you limit them on candy, any more than you limit them on anything. But you're limiting them in a way that they learn to limit themselves and get so much more confidence in who they are and what they can do in this life. I can now handle a credit card. I can now handle the screens of all walks of life. I can now handle my sexuality. It'll give them more confidence to go out the door. And that's the goal. The goal is confidence to go out the door, knowing who I am, knowing what I'm doing, and I can do it.
Wow. What a good evening, huh? Let me, first, I want to thank all of our panelists for coming out tonight, experts in all of their fields, and thank you all. I guess I'm going to have to give some special, though. How about those students? There's a couple of topics that I very quickly want to bring to point. We were at a meeting not too long ago with a group of parents, and we were talking about similar issues. And I said to them, do you all check your child's phone or their computer or their iPad, the laptop? And one dad, who was in one of the first front rows, said, no, I'm not allowed to do that. And I said, really? You're not allowed to do that? Why are you not allowed to do that? Very seriously, he said, it's against the law. I said, really? I never heard that. I said, who told you that? He said, my son. Pretty ingenious child, right? Pretty ingenious child. Another issue, if you go, because there was a lot of discussion tonight about some of these games and the desensitizing and how violent some of the games are. If you go to any of the stores to buy, your child wants a particular game, and you have to buy it for them, should that not be a signal to you that perhaps maybe that's not a good game for your child to have if they can't buy it themselves? Think about that. We talk here a lot about what is it we're trying to accomplish here. What we're trying to accomplish here, folks, is to bring as much good, correct information to you all about a lot of these topics that all kind of meld together, but that not like that dad who his son told him that it was against the law. We want you to have good, correct, factual information to make your decisions for your lives on. Our goal here, and this is something that we continue to resound, is that we want to take back our families. We want to take back our families. Whatever that family unit is, it's very different today. Used to be that it was mom, dad, and maybe 2 or 3 children. It's not that anymore. It's 2 moms, it's 2 dads, it's grandma, it's auntie, it's a friend of the family who's come in to take on that responsibility. It's blended families, yours, mine, and ours. And it doesn't really matter what that makeup is of that family. It is a family unit, and we need to be able to help provide ways to continue raising positive children, preparing them for the world out there, and help guide them through these very, very challenging times. So I want to thank you again for coming out tonight, for listening, and for participating in this very, very important set of topics. I want to let you know that we have already begun, at your request, preparing for our 3rd forum. The topics for that 3rd forum will be bullying, cyberbullying, suicide, cutting, tattooing, that's the new out there, tattooing with no ink, just so I have the pain of the needles going in me, and opioid abuse. So please continue to keep in touch with our social media and our website for date and topics of our future forums. And again, I want to thank you all. I want to thank my wonderful city of Pembroke Pines for, as we say in Pembroke Pines, you know, it takes a village, and we are proud and honored to be that village to raise these children. So thank you all again. Thank you to everyone. I want to especially, before you go, I know the panel, I cannot thank you all enough for taking your time and sharing with us, but I want to hear it for, where did he go, our moderator? Principal Castellano, thank you for a fabulous job. Thank you all, and see you next time.